What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Miami Miles. My name is Mickey. Guys, 2021 is the best car year of all time. They have just released the 2021 Countach teaser images. What is going on with the world? The Countach, guys, the Countach, the most groundbreaking, legendary exotic sports car in history, is going to be reimagined based upon the platform of the Sion with a hybrid powertrain with a deliciously powerful 6.5 liter V12. What? Guys, dude, I can't even tell you how much I love the Countach. Like, I borderline want to cry right now. It is the car that used to have me up, that and the Diablo, when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, reading DuPont Registry till 3 in the morning. Never have I been so in love with the car than I was with the Countach. As a matter of fact, I've tried to buy it twice. 2 times I've almost pulled the trigger, yet I was too scared to sell some Bitcoin to buy the Countach. But look, guys, I want to bring a new perspective to the Countach. I know you guys haven't been living under a rock and you know it's coming. So I want to tell you a little bit about the history of the car. Maybe you don't know its origin story. Well, let's share that with you. And then let's talk about how that became the new LPI 800-4, which is going to be legendary. Let's turn back the clock to 1970. Ferruccio Lamborghini, coming off the heels of the Miura SV, wanted to build a more powerful, a more sleek, exotic sports car. So he commissioned a design house called the Bertone Design House in Italy, the same people who had designed the Miura itself to make what would eventually become the Countach. So the Countach started out as something called the LP112, a terrible name if you ask me. I'm talking whoever would ever think to name even a prototype that has no taste. But the bottom line is, guys, the Bertone Design House ended up designing something angular, something with geometric edges, something so beautiful that in 1971 it was revealed to the world at Geneva, and somebody from a little village up in a northwestern little part of Italy called Piedmonte said Countach. And Countach meant, or Countach, something like that, it meant, wow, what a beautiful design. So somebody overheard this individual and said, you know what, we're gonna call this thing the Countach. That is how the name came about. So fast forward to 1974 and the first Countach ever, the Periscopio Countach, was released. The LP400 with a 3.9 liter, 400 horsepower, well actually 375 horsepower, 268 pound-feet V12 that is perhaps to this day the most beautiful Countach of all. It didn't have the big wings, it didn't have the big vents, it was a sleek design that had pronounced edges, as you can see here on the screen. Never has a car been so beautiful. And then it was in 1978 that they finally upgraded the LP400 to the LP400S. And now the LP400S was the first Countach with that beautiful V-shaped rear wing. So the LP400S, contrary to its name, was not as powerful as the LP400. Ironically, it had about 17 less horsepower, but the S meant that it had these beautiful vents and that iconic rear wing. Anyways, the cars just weren't selling in Europe, and Ferruccio Lamborghini was more worried about working at his vineyard, making his beautiful Lamborghini wine, as opposed to building cars. So eventually he sells the company, and by 1980 Lamborghini's bankrupt. But then came 1982, guys, the 80s, the time of excess in the United States. And you know what happened? They approved the Countach for sale in this country, and the sales absolutely explode. As a matter of fact, in 1982, it was the hottest selling exotic sports car in the country. So when I say it was the hottest selling exotic sports car, I mean that the car was so sought after that everybody wanted it. This is a time when people started hanging up those posters on the wall. And only 321 LP500Ss were brought into this country. Now the cool thing about the LP500S is that it had 375 horsepower and 302 pound-feet of torque, which was an increase over the base model of about 34 pound-feet. So it was more torquey, more punchy, it had the vents, it had the beautiful rear wing. As a matter of fact, guys, check this out. Back in February, I almost pulled the trigger on an LP500S with only 321 in existence in the entire world. We're not talking in the US. In the entire world, this guy wanted to sell me one for $349,000. It was a black example with a light tan interior. Guys, I almost did it, but I did not want to sell my Bitcoin. So you know what I didn't do? I didn't pull the trigger, and now those cars are upwards of $600,000. That would have been the single best trade in my entire life. Fast forward to 1985, and here's where the Countach absolutely just takes off. When they released the LP 500 Quattrivalve, right? 4 valves per cylinder, 455 horsepower, and carbureted guys, which are called the downdraft cars. As a matter of fact, in the US, they imported cars with a Bosch fuel injection system, which turned down the horsepower from 455 to 415. So it was a much less powerful car. But if you can get your hands on a quattro valve car with carburetors here in this country, guys, you're on to a legend. The car was so rare. It was so exotic. Oh my God. That is the most sought after Countach of all time. And now the Countach story, it ends in 1988, but it ends with a bang, guys. What other car do you know where its last designer was more famous than the original designer? In 1988, Horatio Pagani of Pagani designed the final Countach, and he took all the excesses from the 80s and he made it even greater with more vents, with more angles, with thick front bumpers. I don't know if you guys remember, but due to crash regulations in the late 80s, they had to fit these huge bumpers on these cars. So the car looks much more cartoonish than did the Periscopio model of 1974. So from 74 to 88, the car absolutely transformed. And from 88 to 90, that version was sold. And as a matter of fact, it's the cheapest version you can find on Auto Trader, even though now it's probably upwards of $350,000. Eventually, the Countach was replaced by the Diablo, and the Countach ceased to exist. Well, enter the legend, guys. The legend of 2021, the LPI 800-4. If you look at the teaser images, you'll see the vents, the slits down the side of the car. You'll see that they've taken the old Countach and reimagined it. And this car, I know it's gonna be a rebadged Scion, but there's only gonna be, I think, 112, 113 of them at $3.5 million a pop. That means like people like me and you, we're never gonna see the car, we're never gonna drive it, we're probably never gonna own it. It's gonna be for the elite of the elite, for the billionaire class. And it's gonna be released at Concours d'Elegance in August 15th. So I can't wait to see the car. But guys, look, this is one of the most exciting cars ever to be announced because it's so nostalgic. It's such an ode to our youth. But the sad part is we'll never be able to afford them. It's a lot like the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is the coolest car in the world, but only billionaires are gonna buy it. Same thing with this, only billionaires are gonna buy it. They're gonna put it in a museum somewhere. Maybe we'll be able to pay an entry fee and go see one, but we are never gonna own one. And that's perhaps the saddest part about this all. I'm just pissed off because I can't get one, guys, but I can't wait to see it with you guys. Let me know what you guys think of the car. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think the Countach is the coolest thing in the world like I do? Whether you do or don't, hey, give me a big like or a dislike on the video. I don't care. The point is to entertain you guys. Hey, oh, subscribe. Subscribe. Anyways, I hope that you have an amazing day. Take care.